Well, I sure hope you guys can hear me, man, because I've been moving a bit. Uh, all right. Vendor assessment. What's the purpose? Vendor assessment assesses the ability of vendor to meet commitments regarding the delivery and the consistent provision. Basically, we're testing other people that kind of like support the solution, right? What's the description? When solutions are in part provided by external vendors who may be involved design, construction, implementation, maintenance, distribution components. When the solution is outsourced, there may be specific requirement, or when the solution is outsourced, there may be specific requirements in regard to the involvement of a third party. There may be a need to ensure that the supplier is financially secure, capable of maintaining specific staff levels, compliant with standards, and able to commit appropriate skilled staff or support the solution. Non-functional requirements can be used to define the service levels expected on a third party, or due diligence may be conducted, or certification from the independent authority may be requested. A vendor assessment is conducted. So like here, what we're talking about is like we have to check if the person we're trying to work with or with the solution actually can pull through. The last thing we want is somebody giving us promises without us actually knowing if they can or not. A vendor assessment is conducted to ensure that the vendor is reliable and that the product and service meet the organization's expectations. The requirements, the assessment may be formal through a submission or a request for information, request for quote, request for tender, or request for proposal. It may also be very informal through word of mouth and recommendation. The standards of the organization, the complexity of the initiative, and the criticality of the solution may influence the level of formality in which vendors are assessed. Uh, Let's assess the choose, see if it's reliable, the product and service meet the organization's expectations. So we request for information, request for quote, request for tender, request for proposal. All of these, like a tender is a bid, a proposal is like tell us what you can do or how you can do it. Request for quote is basically like how much would it cost, and request for information is like basically processes and shit like this. And the standards of the organization of complexity of the initiative and the criticality of the solution may influence the level of formality in which vendors are assessed. Every solution kind of has like its own like standards, and that's basically the conversation we're having right now. What are the elements? Knowledge and expertise, because the vendor has to kind of know what the fuck they do. When using a third-party uh, vendors is that they can provide knowledge and expertise not available within the organization. It may be desirable to target vendors with expertise in particular methodologies, or methodologies with the goal of having the expertise transferred to them within the enterprise. There's licensing and pricing models. Take into account the cases where solutions component is purchased from outsourced or to a third-party vendor. In many cases, solution that offers similar functionality may offer greatly in their license models, and when it requires analysis to different usage scenarios to determine which portion will provide the best cost-benefit ratio under the scenarios likely to be encountered in the enterprise. Uh, All right, so I think everything we're going to read right now is going to link to how the enterprise sees it. So vendor market position, like, is a good position for it to actually, like, explore, help us explore our market. Uh, it's important for it to be able to compare each vendor to the competitors and decide which market players and the organizations want to get involved. The comparison of the organization's profile with each vendor's customer community may also be a factor in the assessment, which means we have to kind of like check their capabilities or where they are in the market. Because I could have somebody that basically like sells my product but can only reach 20% of the actual market that I want to reach, or I can have a vendor that doesn't sell my product but has a reach of 100% of my market. So the dynamics of the vendor's market position are also very important, especially if the organization intends to establish a long-term partnership with that vendor. Culture as well matters. I don't know if they're putting it here. Terms and conditions refer to the continuity and integrity of the provided products and services. The organization investigates whether the vendor's licensing terms, intellectual property rights, and technology infrastructure are likely to turn into challenges. And again, like cultural fit is very important. And by the end of it, vendor experience, reputation, and stability. Vendors' experience and other customers may provide valuable information. How likely it is that they will be able to meet their contractual obligations. Vendors can also be evaluated for conformance and compliance with external relevant standard for quality, security, and professionalism. Holy shit. All right, so It's just like a lot of words, man. These are real lawyers. Knowledge and expertise. Like, does he know what the fuck he's doing? Is he an expert in his field? Licensing and pricing models. Like, are we able to work with them based on like the actual, based on prices we have, models we have, a certain kind of like the solution component is purchased from outsourced third-party vendor. Does it contradict with the shit that we're actually like working with, or other places that we actually work with? Because like I don't know, some vendors just sell you something, and some vendors rent you something, and sometimes you spend more money to buy a solution instead of actually rent it out for the time that you need it. Vendor market position is important to be able to compare each vendor with the competitors. Terms and conditions, yes. How do we interact with each other, and vendor experience? What are the usage considerations? Strengths increases the chances of the organization to develop a productive and fair relationship with suitable, reliable vendors, and to improve long-term satisfaction with the decision. What are the limitations? Maybe consuming in regards of time and resources does not prevent risk of failure or partnership as the partnership evolves. Subjectivity may bias the evaluation outcome. That's it. Wow, that's vendor assessment. And what is left is workshops. We all know what workshops are, do we? I think we need to know.